Right when I was going to be able to save my saliva and my oxygen for something positive other than complaining about that expensive plastic we call action figures, well, Hasbro turns around and just gives me ammunition. They give me yet another reason to just ramble and rant about action figures. And for those of you guys that are rolling your eyes saying this dude's going at it again, well, it's too late. You've clicked on it. You have to watch. I'm totally kidding. You don't have to watch the entirety of the video. I guess you could always click away. But anyways, let's get straight into it, because I wanted to talk about something that honestly was a little bit shocking to me. I was going to make a video where I essentially pretended, like 2 days in advance, that the Marvel Legends Maximum Deadpool had completely sold out. I was going to make my commentary and all that, but then there was something inside of me that was like, you know what, let's just wait until the figure actually gets a release. Let's just kind of sit back, enjoy all of this nonsense and all of this buffoonery, and actually see if the figure is going to sell out, because there was something in the back of my mind that was telling me that something was awry, something was weird, something was off about this entire release. And well, here we are. I'm technically a day into the release of this particular figure. Now, there is a possibility that by the time I upload this, the figure has sold out and I look like an absolute buffoon. But as I said, we're a day into it. This is the day after the pre-order launch, or the pre-order window for the Maximum Marvel Legends Deadpool opened up, and it hasn't sold out. Not through Entertainment Earth, not through Big Bad Toy Store, not through Amazon. It hasn't sold out through any of the big retailers. And usually you see it sell out first on Amazon because they offer free shipping, because of Amazon Prime, so on and so forth. But usually like Big Bad Toy Store and Entertainment Earth have the figure marked up a little bit. And so you can kind of expect that one to be available a little bit longer, because sometimes they'll charge an extra tariff, a tariff fee on top of it, or they'll charge a little bit extra for shipping, so on and so forth. I think Entertainment Earth does. Big Bad, I think still does the $4 flat rate shipping, unless you're inbox collector and you want to pay the extra for safer shipping. But regardless, all of these figures, or all of these retailers that are carrying this particular figure, still have it in stock. It's also worth mentioning that the 1-for-1 Wolverine roleplay mask also went up for pre-order at about the same time. And I don't know why. I think there was a slight possibility, or at least in my mind, there was a slight possibility that this collectible could also sell out, because it was announced at SDCC. I remember there was a little panel there, and it was kind of like for the fans, right? People can now cosplay and wear the Wolverine mask. And I think there was a big point of emphasizing that it was as spot on as you can get to the original Wolverine mask without, breaking the bank. Obviously, they had to retool it, and I think they did scans of it, but they had to retool it and use more affordable material, because obviously people can't afford like a $1,000 Wolverine durable mask. So they kind of, made it within that affordable retail price point. And that one is also clearly available through almost every single retailer. I think this is speaking volumes about what the consumers want at this point. And honestly, I'm kind of happy about it, because even though I consider myself somebody that could potentially purchase this Deadpool action figure, I think people are kind of wising up to this entire situation. I mean, we just got the new Magic and Marvel Legends crossover line not too long ago, and all of those figures I think were retailing, depending on where you pick them up, but they were retailing for about like $40. Was it like $35 or $40? And the only real difference was that it included a card. I think some of them kind of blurred the lines between a regular Marvel Legends action figure and maybe a deluxe release, but for the most part, you were paying a huge markup with that extra Magic card for absolutely no reason. And then obviously we got the newest Maximum Marvel Legends Hulk, as well as Spider-Man. Now, the Hulk kind of hung around a little bit. It might have sold out through like a couple of retailers, but for the most part, people just were not interested in it. The Spider-Man though, and I kind of thought that it was going to fall into that same category as the Maximum Spider-Man. I thought maybe it was going to sell out in waves, like maybe the first wave was going to hit, the first like 2 to 3 waves were going to hit, and they were all going to sell out. Or who knows, maybe Hasbro behind the scenes is kind of pulling the strings. Maybe they did have a certain amount that they were going to release for the first pre-order window regarding the Maximum Spider-Man Marvel Legends action figure, just to create kind of that conversation, to spark that FOMO and really get people to purchase multiples of these, or at least get one of them. Here, I'm not sure exactly what happened. Maybe Hasbro was overly confident. Maybe they felt like these are just going to fly off the shelves. It's a no-brainer. Just make them all widely available, and then maybe they just miscalculated in this particular situation. I think they could have easily done what they did with the Marvel Legends Spider-Man. Allow a few of these to hit pre-orders, allow just a few quantities, and then once those sell out, wait a couple of weeks and then release another little wave. Make it seem like they just can't keep up with production. Like, people are just these figures are just completely flying off the shelves. They could have created that narrative, and instead I think they got overly confident. They felt like these figures were also going to play into that same situation or into that same scenario, and unfortunately it's just sitting there. Now look, in my personal opinion, $50 for this figure is definitely pushing it. However, I do feel like you're getting at least close to that value. Usually you're overpaying with Marvel Legends regardless. Whenever, you know, it's a HasLab, or whenever it's one of these made to order action figures, I usually feel like you're overpaying by, like, I don't know, 15 to 20%. And I feel the same exact way here. They could have easily done this like in a deluxe format for $35 to $40. And I think people would have been okay with that type of release. But making this a maximum Marvel Legends line, I can see why people would get upset over it. However, this is, and I mentioned this in my previous video, this is brand new sculpt work from head to toe from my understanding. You do get pinless technology. You're supposed to get, you know, the double ab crunch, you know, from what I can see, butterfly joints that cut really deep, and, you know, so on and so forth. However, at the end of the day, I'm going to assume that most people already have a comic book Marvel Legends Deadpool in their display. I think this is more meant for people that are just hardcore Hasbro fans, or people that don't have that many Deadpools, or maybe don't have a single one in their display. This could be like their end all, and potentially those people might be interested. But clearly there was a severe miscalculation, because these figures are just sitting in a warehouse somewhere on digital store shelves. People are just not buying into it. And I think this is a good way of letting Hasbro know that maybe they're pushing the boundaries a little bit. I think that's the best thing that you can do as a consumer, as a collector. Just let these figures sit, allow the manufacturer to really go crazy, to really panic. And I think that's probably the only way to really get them to react. But as I said, I think there still is some value to this Deadpool release. It just doesn't have like a wider appeal for some reason. What's going to be interesting moving forward is if any of these maximum Marvel Legends action figures ever go on clearance, okay? Because I actually have a pretty good feeling that Hasbro's going to do everything in their power to not allow that to happen. I mean, they might have actually even reached out to the manufacturers and said, hey, do not allow these figures to go on clearance, right? Like, we'll buy these figures back if it comes down to it, just for the sake of not destroying that $50 price point. Because if they decide to eventually clearance out the Hulk, for example, or the Spider-Man that's still left in inventory somewhere, then potentially people could wait out the maximum line in the hopes that they can get it for a slightly discounted price, which probably they would honestly just discount it down to what the figures should be worth anyways. But like, it's all very interesting. I just thought this was something that I would bring up to you guys. As I mentioned, by the time I uploaded, maybe it already sold out, but I thought this was going to immediately sell out. Like, within a few minutes, maybe a couple of hours, it was going to be in stock, and then it was just going to fly out the door. But unfortunately, or I should say fortunately, I'm not sure, I guess it depends on your perspective, but they're still sitting there. Nobody's really going out of their way to purchase these. I actually checked Amazon, and they were allowing you to purchase like 5 of these, and I think like Big Bad Toy Store had a larger limit per customer. So they're really not limiting anybody. They're welcoming scalpers and action figure flippers. But I think the deeper we go into the maximum line, people, or action figure flippers and scalpers, are finally realizing that there's no resale value on them. I mean, some of these are reselling on eBay for like $60, $65, $70. There's absolutely no profit to be made there. And I think I'm honestly very happy that Hasbro has left no meat on the bone for the resellers and the scalpers. But at the same time, I feel like they've alienated their own fan base, and even hardcore Hasbro fans seem to be kind of taking a step back from this release and, you know, not buying in. I'm very curious to see what you guys have to say. Did you guys pre-order the Marvel Legends Maximum Deadpool? Do you plan on purchasing it? What are your gripes with it? What are your issues? If you have any, let me know down below. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. As I said, this was just kind of like a quick heads up, like, hey, this hasn't sold out. This is why I think it's not selling out. But as I said, it's all about connecting. So let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure to stay tuned, because we actually are uploading on a daily basis. Sometimes it's action figure news, sometimes it's unboxing, sometimes it's action figure hunts, and then other times it's just, or I should say more often than not, it's just random action figure rambling. If you guys like that kind of stuff, then you've arrived at the right channel. So stay safe out there. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you.